It's 50 years since the first time that Denver had a Pride celebration, but it's also 50 years of progress.
Now on Denver 7, celebrating Coloradans living their truth.
Pride has always meant the opposite of shame.
I want a world where we have respect and love.
Sharing Denver's rich LGBTQ plus history.
It's the function of generations of people coming together to create a space for themselves.
And stories that inspire.
There always needs to be room for other voices to come in.
Across 50 years of Denver Pride to now.
Every year is somebody's first Pride celebration.
Thanks for joining us for this Denver 7 special, celebrating 50 years of Denver Pride. We've partnered with the Center on Colfax, the nonprofit that organizes Pride every single year, to reflect on the last 5 decades, while they gear up for this weekend's festival. Denver 7 is a proud sponsor of Denver Pride. More than 500,000 people are expected to attend PrideFest. It kicks off tomorrow morning with the Pride 5K launching off the steps of the state capitol. Festivities start at Civic Center Park at 11 a.m. with more than 250 exhibits, 30 food vendors, and live performances. The colorful Pride Parade is Sunday morning at 9:30 along Colfax. The theme for this year's Pride Fest is 50 years of pride. While the dazzling sparkles and whirlwind of colors make downtown magical, it's also a time to give tribute to the triumphs of the past and continue to push through the challenges our neighbors are facing. I sat down with the CEO of the Center on Colfax and other key players in bringing pride to Denver.
Courage comes in many forms. Courage comes from the heart. Courage comes from actions in the world.
It's 50 years since the first time that Denver had a Pride celebration.
I feel like there's so much with that. With 50 years, as much as it's been a fight the entire time.
And the fight for Pride began long before the first celebration, culminating in a political showdown in October 1973 in Denver.
It was a really scary time for a lot of activists in this movement. There were no laws protecting somebody, say, from being fired for being gay. Gay bars were raided by police and shut down, and the people who were there were arrested for lewd behavior. In 1973, a group of activists staged a protest at Denver City Council to get some of those laws changed, and they really were able to demonstrate that those arrests and that harassment was primarily aimed at gay men.
In Denver, the first Pride was in 1974 in June.
It was what they called a gay-in. It was at Cheeseman Park, and it was really a picnic in the park, but soon that started to grow and it became a parade within a couple of years. The first parade that occurred was 1976, and the first permit was pulled by Christopher Sloan, who's also a drag queen in town that goes by the name Christy Lane.
There was a theatrical group in town called the Toby Foundation. At a Toby meeting, somebody said, "How come we don't have a parade like they have in New York?" I don't know. Well, I'll go see if we can find one. So I wandered down to the office of the city manager. We got the permit.
They started planning a community center. They started planning Pride. And they were working in tandem with communities of LGBTQ people across the country. Pride was the party. Pride was being out and proud.
I'm sad to say that in the 80s, it really started to decline, partly because so many people were losing their lives from AIDS and HIV. So on the 20th anniversary of Stonewall in 1989, it was probably about 100 people who rallied on the west steps of the Capitol, and that was pretty much it. So 1990 is when the center started producing Pride, and we had about 10,000 people march in the parade that first year, and it's continued to grow ever since.
The 90s saw Don't Ask, Don't Tell, banning openly gay service people from military service. In 2010, the policy was repealed, and in 2015, the U.S. Supreme Court legalized gay marriage right around Pride time in Denver's Civic Center Park.
It's the first time that we had worked with Lonnie Hands-On, who's a Denver artist who's done works all around the world, but he created a 24-foot tall wedding cake in the center of the park. It was the week after that year's Pride celebration that the Supreme Court decision came out.
Lonnie had a premonition, huh?
Yeah.
2020 brought challenges for Pride worldwide during the COVID-19 pandemic.
Really grateful for some very creative people, especially some at Denver 7 who helped us create a virtual Pride parade.
And 2021 saw the birth of Denver's first Black Pride celebration.
I think one of the big reasons why Black Pride Colorado came to be was that I could see the struggle of folks of color within mainstream Pride. And that is not to take away what Denver Pride has done. I feel like there's always room, right? Like there always needs to be room for other voices, trans, non-binary, asexual, like all of the identities.
A push toward more inclusion.
I think there's always a chance to be more inclusive and to look at ourselves and find out how we can include more groups of folks.
And even more Pride victories.
A few years ago, I remember being at the corner of Colfax and Broadway because you can look up the hill and see the parade start to come over the hill by the state capitol. And there's just thousands and thousands of people and as many rainbows as you can possibly come up with. And it just started coming up over that hill. And one of the volunteers came up next to me and she was looking at that and just kind of said, wow. And she turned to me and she had tears in her eyes and said, look at what we can do.
The success of Pride isn't the function of one person or one small group of people. It's the function of generations of people coming together to create a space for themselves.
Well, Christopher Sloan, the man who secured the first Pride permit for that parade and festival back in 1976, will be the Grand Marshal of this year's parade. Something new to look forward to at this year's Pride, the first Gayborhood Market. Denver Pride partnered with the Rainbow Market Denver to create a space dedicated to supporting local LGBTQ+ small businesses.
It's the 50th anniversary of Denver Pride, so it's going to be absolutely huge, but it's a way for them to get in low cost, be able to put all of their money towards their product and try to build their stock levels and then be able to showcase who they are and what kind of brand they're trying to build.
You can find the Gayborhood Market this weekend in Lincoln Veterans Memorial Park. The very first director of the Center on Colfax recently released a new book aiming to educate people on Denver's LGBTQ+ history. Denver 7's Richard Butler sat down with author Phil Nash one-on-one.
For the past 4 generations.
With his husband Bob by his side,
This is me.
Phil Nash takes a look back at his past.
This was a lot of work.
In his lifetime, Phil has worked as a gay rights activist, reporter, photojournalist, communication strategist, and most recently, author. His work has shaped gay rights as we know them today.
I read in Out Front that there was a group of people who had come together to start a gay community center in Denver. And I thought, I want to be part of this.
He found them, and after about a year of volunteering, he was selected to be the first director of the organization now known as the Center on Colfax.
We were there to help people come out. And one thing that gave impetus to the center and the whole movement here in Denver occurred in June of 1977, and that was the Save Our Children campaign down in Florida.
The campaign was led by a singer and former Miss Oklahoma, Anita Bryant, who was trying to overturn a policy protecting gay people in Miami. Bryant's involvement brought national attention to the anti-gay movement.
It was the first time that gays and lesbians mobilized all over the country to help raise money to stop that.
In the early 1980s, Phil left the center and began reporting for Outfront magazine.
Gay publications were running obituaries. It became a service to the community to report on people who died of AIDS because many people wouldn't otherwise know what had happened to their friends.
A critical time to be a gay journalist. He also covered the election of Denver's first Hispanic mayor.
Federico Peña built a coalition of Latinos, blacks, women, environmentalists, LGBT people, and surprised everyone by winning that election.
By 1990, Phil began working for Peña as a speechwriter. Then, in 1992, another setback for gay rights, as Coloradans voted for Amendment 2, which nullified civil rights protections based on sexual orientation.
It was devastating to our community.
A Denver judge later ruled the amendment was unconstitutional. It eventually made it all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, which agreed. Phil and Bob are now legally married, a life of service, progress, and an insatiable dedication to LGBTQ rights.
In my lifetime, I've gone from having no knowledge about what it means to be gay or that gay people even existed to living a life of making it easier for gay people to come out and live whole and complete and happy lives. A few of us can write our history, but it takes all of us to write our future.
Denver 7's Richard Butler joins us in studio. Richard, what an incredible story.
Yeah, Phil and I also talked about how we learn about different cultures and histories in school, but for gay people, we don't really have that. I didn't learn about gay history or cultures in school. I had to go find it myself.
I think that is so many people's story, and it sounds like Nash took matters into his own hands.
Yes, Phil wrote this book, LGBTQ Denver. It can be found in bookstores. Phil will also be selling this book this weekend at the center of Colfax's booth at PrideFest.
All right, Richard Butler reporting for us. Thank you, Richard.
Still ahead, going green at PrideFest.
The outdoor and environmental movements should be more diverse.
The environmentally friendly changes this weekend, and later.
There's just so much external factors that I think are impacting so many LGBTQ plus Coloradans all at the same time.
A look at the state of mental health during a big election year.
The Center on Colfax and Rocky Mountain College of Arts and Design partnered to host an art contest aimed at highlighting Denver LGBTQ plus history. Middle and high school students competed in the contest, and the winning art pieces are on display at the Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design. This weekend, Denver PrideFest is going green with a new sustainability initiative. You'll see more recycling bins, water bottle refill stations, aluminum cans instead of plastic, and recyclable food containers. Leading the charge, environmentalist and drag queen Patty Gonya.
We're asking so many people right now to fight for this planet, but we forget a very important first step to connect to this planet. I think we fight for what we love, so if we can get people outdoors and connected to nature, they're going to fight more for it. And I think the outdoors are an amazing chance for queer people to figure out their identity, figure out who they are.
Patty Gonya is also headlining on center stage tomorrow afternoon at 2.
Up next, the Colorado GOP continues to make headlines for using hate speech.
I would want to ask them to consider how much damage those phrases are doing.
This political dialogue is taking a toll on mental health. And later, overcoming hardships.
There wasn't that much representation for Black queer people growing up. And I was bullied in middle school for my sexuality and being who I am.
A local group is encouraging young people to be themselves.
The Colorado Republican Party is facing backlash after the leader of the party attacked Pride Month, calling for all pride flags to be burned. Denver 7 reporter Jeff Anastasio joins us now. And Jeff, the recent political rhetoric has impacted your own mental health. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that with us?
I mean, Micah, it hurts. It hurts as a 47-year-old gay man who's also a man of faith. I know the struggle well. I know what it's like to try to bring together your sexuality and your spirituality. I know what it's like to spend years trying to pray the gay away, go through reparative therapy, and it does damage that you take well into your adult life. I still deal with issues around it. And so this notion, this rhetoric around God hates pride, God hates flags, which is an unfortunate turn of a phrase. I really worry about the impact that that's having on the mental health of LGBTQ plus Coloradans. But in doing this story, it has reminded me that you don't have to take your spiritual guidance from political operatives, that there are wonderful communities of faith in Colorado and mental health spaces that are there for you to help all Coloradans have their light shine.
The world has got to get better.
And in their own way, Jenny and Lindsay are making it happen.
Yes, there is so much negativity, but there's also so many great people doing amazing work.
As a public health researcher, Lindsay wants to understand how their own community is feeling.
More than half of LGBTQ plus Colorado adults say that they are struggling with poor mental health.
And Jenny, a co-pastor at Highlands Church, knows firsthand how faith can help.
And we want to be part of helping it to get better.
Colorado Health Institute's Health Access Survey paints the picture. While 72% of straight and cisgender Colorado adults reported good mental health, only 46% of LGBTQ plus people could say the same. And when they try to get help,
we know that they are more likely to feel like they are discriminated against. But if we can at least help increase the number of behavioral health specialists who also specialize in LGBTQ plus needs, that is a huge impact. There's just so much external factors that I think are impacting so many LGBTQ plus Coloradans all at the same time.
Some of it has been in the headlines.
The Colorado Republican Party facing backlash after attacking Pride Month and calling for all Pride flags to be burned.
I would want to ask them to consider how much damage those phrases are doing to fellow human beings. The abundant harvest of God's love in a still divided world.
Jenny, who leads this fully inclusive, welcoming congregation in Denver, knows because she's lived it.
I figured out the clobber passages, and I figured out that God had actually made me this way.
It was in Scripture that she found healing and the freedom to thrive, finding her truth.
Pride Week we're very proud of.
The love of her life, and a flock with arms wide open.
Pride is this, it's like this beautiful, artful expression of what the world is supposed to be like. Beautiful belonging and love. Pride is, it's an oasis.
I want to leave you with some positivity. First, the data shows that the LGBTQ plus community in Colorado, it's growing. So that means you're not alone, and that it's okay to say, I'm not okay. It's okay to say I need help. And there's wonderful resources in Colorado, including at the Center on Colfax, of which I used to serve on the board. They right now are offering 12 free therapy sessions. No insurance needed, no referral. So it's a huge resource. I walk away with this, that there's all kinds of welcoming spaces despite the noise that's happening right now, and that you're not alone. People care about you. Even strangers care about you, and that we're listening. We're here. It's going to be okay.
And Jeff, I want to thank you so much for your vulnerability. I know you speaking from your heart spoke directly to so many hearts out there that really needed to hear your message, hear those resources, and hear the words, you are not alone. So Jeff Anastasio, thank you so much for telling us your story.
Coming up, inspiring LGBTQ plus youth to take control of their future.
I need to recognize that it's not about the work that I've done, it's not about where I've been, it's really about being authentic.
We share how One Colorado is helping people find their voice.
One Colorado is an advocacy group pushing young people out of their comfort zones and into the fight for equality. Denver 7's Angelica Albaladejo shares what's charging up young people to get involved in politics.
When you look back at history and how people have advocated for queer rights, it definitely can still correlate today.
Inspiring young leaders like Miles Chapman.
Growing up, I kind of didn't really feel seen being a black and queer person. I was bullied in middle school for my sexuality and being who I am, so it was just important for me to growing up to advocate for my community.
That's why Miles is so politically active, even as a recent high school grad. Not even able to vote yet.
Our young people, they are just tearing down boxes and, creating this kaleidoscope of light and energy.
Nadine Bridges directs One Colorado, the state's leading LGBTQ plus advocacy group, where Chapman and other young people are helping to shape policies for the future.
It's really about being authentic and really seeing young people as the courageous intelligent, powerful folks that they are, and that they have the right to speak their mind.
It's also about embracing diversity.
Our community is not a monolith. We're literally representative of every identity, race, ability out there. It's not just about LGBTQ plus issues, it's about Black and brown issues, it's around immigration, it's around health equity, it's around our environment and conservation, and they are going full throttle.
It's challenging, though, with an extremist culture war fueling what many call discriminatory laws in states like Florida, and recent Supreme Court decisions, such as siding with a Colorado graphic designer who refused to make wedding websites for same-sex couples.
It's hard to not get jaded, but what I'm seeing is that our community is saying, you know what, we're not going to be reactive, we're going to be proactive, we're going to celebrate joy, we're going to celebrate love, and we're going to keep demonstrating resistance.
Resistance, seen over the last 50 years of LGBTQ plus activism.
It's up to young people to continue that.
In Denver,
we are the future, and it's up to us to continue to change the world.
Angelica Albaladejo, Denver 7.
Denver 7's Sarah Adcock, who is typically behind the scenes working as a director, is joining me now to continue this conversation. Sarah, thinking about the future of Pride, I can't help but think about the past as well. What was Pride like for you growing up?
So I don't remember much of Pride growing up. I don't remember much of a presence. I grew up in Texas. I have, gay aunts and gay uncle, and I don't know if they celebrated Pride. I don't know if they went out and out into the community and did things, and I don't know if it's that they didn't do it. I don't know if it's that that they didn't talk to me about it, or if there was just like a shame around it, which I feel like now Pride is like more celebratory.
Yeah, it is a lot bigger now. You're married, you and your wife are expecting your first child. What do you hope Pride is like for your baby?
I hope that Pride continues to be inclusive. I hope that, my wife and I, we've found this beautiful community out here in Colorado, our church community, our gym community, our work community, everybody that loves us for who we are. And so I just hope that, that our daughter, as she grows up, that she knows that she's loved just as she is, as she's discovering herself and asking questions. Like I really hope that Pride for her is a place where she doesn't have to feel shame, where she can feel like she can celebrate her individuality and her differences. Because I don't know anything about who she's going to grow up to be or things that she's going to like. But I just hope that Pride continues to be celebratory of all the differences.
I think the future is bright, Sarah. Well, we hope this 30-minute special celebrating 50 years of Denver Pride encouraged you to get out and enjoy PrideFest this weekend. Again, the festivities at Civic Center Park begin at 11 Saturday morning and continue through Sunday. And we want to give a big thank you to our partners at the Center on Colfax, and thank you for watching. We'll see you at PrideFest.